Welcome to the Roaring Reactions and Coach's Cliff Notes here with the Running Through the Jungle crew. We're a little light today, just myself, Brandon Harriet, and your host, Justin Lacey. What's good, Justin?
It's the OG crew, you know what I mean? When we first started the Running Through the Jungle podcast, it was just you and I. So we had the additions of Chase Johnson, Tim, and all of a sudden we became like this kind of like this thing. So
Yeah,
it's kind of nice to kind of see how it originally started, man. But hey, I'm doing pretty good, man. How was your Christmas?
it was a very good Christmas, a little hectic this week. We had a loss in the family on my fiance's side, so things got a little
Yeah.
crazy. And that's part of the reason why we're doing the Roaring Reactions on Thursday here, the day after Christmas. We normally go live on Wednesday. Things have been so crazy that last week we just said we'll see you next Wednesday without even realizing it was Christmas.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's for
Just
sure,
like,
man. It was kind of crazy, chaotic. First and foremost, man, my heart goes out to you, your fiance regarding the loss in her family, man. That's never a good time, especially around the holidays when it's supposed to
yeah,
be a time to celebrate. Yeah, Christmas for me, it was actually pretty good. It was also really hectic leading up to it because of the last minute shopping. Everybody knows last minute shopping is crazy, chaotic, but also more so it was the grocery shopping that you got to do to prepare the meals and the dinners. It was just too much. For like 4 straight days, all of the grocery stores was just jam packed to the point that lines was leading out into the street to get into the store. There was no parking available. And then, and see me, I'm a fan of cinnamon rolls on Christmas morning when I cook
oh, okay.
breakfast. They ain't had no cinnamon rolls in any of the stores, so I had to improvise and get biscuits and then buy some cake. And I like the icing that you put on top of a cake. I had to buy some of that and melt it just to put on top of the biscuit. It was not the same. It was not
No,
the same. I try,
it's not.
I try to make do with what I could, but man, it goes to show you, you do not want to be late on these kind of things. Like, fair warning for those people that's out and about next year: do your Christmas grocery shopping a week in advance. Okay, just that's the
Uh,
best option. That's the best advice I can give people.
Great advice. Great advice. I went a few days earlier, but I went bright and early in the morning.
Right.
Still busier than normal by far, but
Mm-hmm.
I was able to get everything I needed. I did not do. We did more of a brunch than we did
Yeah.
a breakfast on Christmas, and it turned into brunch burgers. I did smash burgers with cheese and
The little
bacon and
egg on top.
eggs. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It
Yeah.
was really good, but I did like garlic potatoes and stuff with them.
Mm-hmm.
We've eaten some really good food this week. Um, I did have one thing I did run out of though. I did not, because I made some pasta one day and I got family visiting and whatnot. Uh, I didn't have enough bread. I got garlic bread and whatever. I didn't have enough like dinner rolls and bread, stuff like that. So last night, instead of Christmas Eve, instead of going to the store to get said dinner rolls, I made bread from scratch. I just
Hey.
said, nope, I'm not going out in this. I'm not going to do it,
Mm-hmm.
Justin. So I avoided what you went through and made bread from scratch. It seemed like the easier option.
Yeah, at that point, man, you might as well. It's a good option to be able to experiment with different things, you know. So, I
For
mean,
sure.
fortunately for Christmas Eve dinner, we were able to get our dinner rolls because that was on the list.
Yep.
Get make our steak dinner. It's our first Christmas together, like living together. So it was kind of a nice thing that we was able to do. But more so than anything, man, it's you got to be able to build. You got to go through the chaos. It's like when you go through a rough stretch during the NFL season, when you got this team and this team and this team, and they're all winning get teams and stuff. You got to fight through those opponents and those tough defenses, and you can't avoid it. You can't try to scheme your way around it. Just you're going to get hit. So
Hmm.
I mean, that's basically what holiday season was for us. So it was. But like I said, man, I don't regret anything. It was fun just to go through the experience again. Sat back and watched all of the holiday movies. For yes, and I'm going to put this out there because I did tweeted this, but it didn't get no traction. I'm a huge fan of Home Alone, but Home Alone 2 clears Home Alone 1 all day, every day for me.
Ooh,
I love them
okay.
both. Okay.
All right.
I love them both. Home Alone was a classic, but it was one of those rare scenarios where the sequel was even better. And that's why Home Alone 1 and 2 will always reign supreme as far as like holiday movies. But my personal favorite is Home Alone 2.
I watched a lot of sports, man. You know, a couple football games on Christmas Day.
Man,
The
those games are terrible.
basketball in the evening was pretty good.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I thought the basketball, the NBA kind of showed out. They had some pretty good games.
Oh yeah, bro.
So they might have won Christmas this year. They might have
No,
won
man.
Christmas this year.
I'm going to have to agree with LeBron, man. Leave Christmas Day to the NBA, please. They've been doing it for decades at this point. Just leave it to the NBA. The NFL, I get it. Netflix wanted to produce a product out there for the consumers to be able to be like, hey, the NFL is a growing popularity thing. We want to introduce it on Christmas Day. But first of all, it was already a problem before the season because everybody was talking about the 3 games in 10 days for the teams that had to be a part of it. It's on a Wednesday. And then you got to go turn around and play the following Sunday afterwards to end the season. It just didn't feel good, you know. And the product on the field was just a mess. It was 2 blowout games, and you know, don't get me wrong. And we're going to get much more into this. Don't get me wrong. I'm always down to watch football, but at the end of the day, sometimes if it's not a great fit, just leave it alone. Just stop. Just stop.
Yep. Hey, listen, football's the reason why we're here. Let's get into it after this Christmas break. First of all, thank you, Afton. Thank you, Tim, for rocking with us in the live chat. Everybody else is tuning in. Feel free to join in on the chat if you're watching this on YouTube. If you're watching this Spotify, Apple Pod, wherever you get your podcast, please go ahead and hit that thumbs up, that like, that subscribe. Leave a comment and make a comment on my Bengals Christmas shirt. You know what I mean? Go ahead.
Yeah. Mine just kind of just says Merry Christmas. It's just about, you know, we had matching PJs. So I was like, you know, I'm just going to wear the top part today.
Yeah. I unfortunately, I could not get my Steelers fan fiance into a Bengals onesie, but you know, I did ask. All right, let's get into this reactions here.
Oh yeah, let's do it.
The Bengals beat the Browns 24-6 in Cincinnati, finally winning some home games, which is nice. DTR starting for the Cleveland Browns did have some woes and some hiccups, and it wasn't all domination by the Bengals, I would say, especially to start off the game. I really thought the Browns were marching down, going to score that touchdown, take an early lead. Fumble on the goal line. Bell pokes the ball out, and we seem to dodge a bullet. But you know, what was your take overall on how the game went, the flow of the game? Was it what you expected? Was there something that you didn't see that you were looking for, or just your overall take on this game?
Yeah, for sure. I'm going to start off by saying, "For unto us a new nickname is born." You know, in honor of Christmas spirit, and that is Air Burrow. I know everybody's already seen the memes. I already know everybody's already seen the jokes with him just kind of like, you know, Superman in that touchdown pass in the end zone to T. Higgins. That was awesome. You know, for all those people that want to say that, oh, his knee was down. Yeah, but he touched the defender. He didn't touch the defender. He touched his own player, and he still was able to jar the ball loose and just get that throw out there on point to T. Higgins right in between the numbers. That was insane. But obviously, my overall takeaway is, in the first half, the first of the start of the game, it just felt like it was going to be deja vu all over again. Jerome Ford just scampers for a 66-yard gain. And immediately I'm just thinking, here we go again with this defense. They can't seem to stop any of their divisional opponents, especially on the ground. And then next thing you know, Von Bell kind of plays this, you know, Charles Tillman peanut punch game, and then was able to knock the ball loose right before he scores. And they ruled it a touchdown. You know, and then they ended up reversing the call. It was the defense played well. Okay. We understand that they played well, but it was more so the quality of the opponent. But it was nice to see shades of the old 21 and 22 defense that we've seen Lua and Arumo run to perfection. It was nice to see that this past Sunday. The Browns are not a great team. It looked like that when they made the move to bench Jameis Winston and put DTR in there. That symbolized that they were just trying to just tank on the rest of the season. They don't care, put themselves in a better position to get a better draft pick. All their fans are talking about, they ain't trying to win no more games. They just trying to secure a top 5 pick and all this and that and the other. Look, do whatever you will, but we trying to win games here in Cincinnati, and we don't care who we playing against. But it was nice to see the Bengals defense rise to the occasion. They were really the real reasons going into the second half while the Bengals were able to win this game. As far as the offense go, now Burrow was spectacular in the first half. I already mentioned the Air Burrow. But more importantly, I thought that this was going to be a game that where it just seemed like Joe Burrow found his Peyton Manning's type of flow. In the first half, he was willing and dealing. He was cooking them like fish grease. And I thought that, man, he might throw for 6 touchdowns on this Browns team and then put an end to that. This might be the game where we finally see a big blowout win that can make us feel good as Bengal fans, because even though it is a divisional opponent that's tanking on the rest of the season, you're still supposed to be able to dominate those teams from start to finish. Then the second half came, and then in the third quarter more specifically, it was just disgusting on offense. I didn't like it. Like, the play calls were bad. They couldn't run the ball. I get it that the Browns defense had to, they finagled their way to try to get more pressure, interior pressure on Joe Burrow, so that way it can force a little bit more incompletions. But the Bengals were just not consistent running the ball at all. It basically took a catching Myles Garrett off sides free play to throw a gimme play to Jamar Chase in the end zone to finally seal the deal.
Which it looked like the defensive back quit on.
It did look like that. That is exactly what it looked like that. Now, if that was Denzel Ward, now I know Denzel Ward got beat a few times in that game, but if that was Denzel Ward and that play did count and it wasn't a free play, I think that ball probably would have been incompletion. I got such high standards for this Bengals offense. We love how Joe Burrow's playing. We love how Jamar Chase is playing. We love a lot about what the defensive line was doing in that game. But as far as the season expectations, I'm still resorting to the fact that, man, this is a failed season, and I'm not going to be fooled by this so-called dead cat bounce to where they look alive for the last few weeks of the season. It's nice to get these 3 straight wins, but it doesn't make me feel good. They still have not registered a feel-good win on the season to make you really feel good about the product and the direction of where they are as a team. I thought Zach Taylor was a lackluster coaching decision effort. The second drive, after we got Burrow was just killing them just killing them all day in the end. He basically did whatever he wanted against that Browns defense on the second drive when they would look like they was getting ready to go up 14. It was just so frustrating when they were faced with that 4th and 3 that they didn't go for it. You were deep in their territory. You settled for a 47-yard field goal and he missed it. But Burrow, the play before that, all he did was just miss a wide open T. Higgins by mistake. It just looked like, okay, go for it. If you didn't get it, fine. But that was very frustrating that you just took the ball out of your star player's hands yet again, and you still ended up missing a field goal. Now, don't get me wrong. K. York did make up for it by kicking a 59-yard field goal, but that was what 3 seconds left in the half? Who cares at that point?
And that was horrible clock management, I think, on their behalf. You know what I mean? If the Browns take a timeout there, we don't have that opportunity. Yeah, they need to take a timeout with 20 seconds left and force us to punt the ball then, because we're not going to try it. If there's 26 seconds left on the clock, we're not going to try that field goal at all.
For sure. It's just the overall nucleus of, man, this is why this team is not entering in playoff. We're in the playoff conversations of the 7th seed, but this is why the team is still on the outside looking in. I've seen way too many shades of just inconsistency on every side of the ball, no matter how you spin it.
Yeah.
There's just an ineptitude with coaching decisions. I still felt like that, even with the bereft roster of talent that was there. Not saying that Myles Garrett and Denzel Ward, all those guys, I still like the Browns defense to an extent.
Their defense is still playing with pride, though. I'll give them that.
Their defense is still good. Now, the offense was suspect, but I still felt like Kevin Stefanski managed his team somewhat decently well for the situation that he was given with DTR and all that stuff. Jerry Jeudy only had 3 catches and stuff, but they didn't really target him that much. Same with David Njoku.
Well, also when you have Cedric Tillman out of the game, I think you could spend a little bit more eyes on Jeudy as well.
Yeah, for sure. Like I said, it was nice to also see our young defensive backs get in, get some action, create some plays, and we'll talk about our game ball recipients and stuff like that as well too. But it was just very frustrating because I felt like that even though we won the game, I felt like Zach Taylor was still out-coached by Kevin Stefanski. I felt like the offense was just inconsistent. They were explosive in the first half, just disappeared in the second. the defense was good, but they only do good against terrible offenses and terrible quarterbacks. And then the special teams is just inconsistent because Kate York had to miss another field goal. Only thing that was good and consistent about our special
Special
teams
teams.
was our punter.
Yeah. That you led me kind of right into my overall take of this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Good win, 24-6, looks good on paper. But when I look at and break it down, 55% of the reason why we have an 18-point win there is how we played. 45% of that is how they played also. Like,
Absolutely.
we did play a little bit better. I've seen some things that give me a little promise for the future. I've seen some young guys starting to play better, come into their own, get their sea legs underneath them, get used to the speed of the NFL game versus the college game. And in an odd way, especially on our defensive line, I think McKinley Jackson and Chris Jenkins having some time off early in the season due to injury has kind of saved them a little bit. They haven't hit that rookie wall because they haven't played more games than they really did in college. So those guys are starting to look a little bit better. I also think, and I know the guy's been a great player for us. He's been an all-time great Bengal. He's Mr. Cincinnati. He's been dealing with injuries on and off for the past 2 seasons. But when Hubbard isn't in there and they're playing the young guys, I think they're getting more productivity out of the young guys. And I don't think without an injury, I think Lou just keeps marching them out there. You know what I mean? It's like he's riding with his guys. It doesn't matter, the old tenured guys. I like seeing them rotate more guys in and out. I like seeing some of these younger guys getting opportunities, and I think we need to see more and more of that in the future.
No, for sure, and quite frankly, this goes to the downfall, like what you just said about the coaching staff. Lou Anarumo should have had a much more contrasting start conversation with Sam Hubbard before the season started. He should have had the conversation more so as to tell him about, hey, look, we got a lot of young guys that we need to be able to see, and we have to nurture and develop. We're going to limit some snaps because we know that you had an injury plague last year, and you're coming into the season injury plague this year. We want you to be healthy for the bigger stretch. Again, this is when we're thinking that the expectation was Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. We wanted Sam Hubbard to be a part of that run still. But it looks like that this is going to be another injury plague season for you, Sam. So we want to just insert the young guys. They're not as young because they have had snap counts. Joseph Osai, Miles Murphy, those guys, and obviously the interior. We're still going to get you in on rotation and stuff. But at the end of the day, I need your help coaching up these young guys more than you need to be on the field at this point until you're fully healthy and ready.
Yeah, the leadership piece, the how to be a pro piece. There's a lot of really good things that Sam Hubbard, even in a part-time, playing piece, is still a vital piece to that team. It doesn't
absolutely. Yeah.
I'm not trying to take away from what he adds to the team. It's very vital leadership skills and teaching skills. I think he would even benefit from being rotated out of the lineup more often. Like you said, fresher legs, less wear and tear. I think he would have benefited for it. And I think they did him a disservice by not doing that. I think they did him, the young guys, and the whole team a disservice by not having that rotation set. All right.
Well, it reminded me of back in 2017. You remember that was TJ Watt's rookie year. And before the season, they had James Harrison still. That's 27 Steelers team was really dominant. People don't remember that for real. They just went one and done in the playoffs. But they had Ryan Shazier, they had James Harrison, and rookie TJ Watt. And not to even mention other guys like Cam Hayward and Vince Williams and Stephon Tuitt and all them other guys. No, TJ Watt was a rookie. But what did Mike Tomlin share with James Harrison? Even though you are still James Harrison, you are really productive, and Sam Hubbard is never going to be on James Harrison's level. What the issue that what they wanted to set up was, hey, TJ Watt is going to be the starter. He's the young guy. He's going to be a starter. Let him go through his growing pains. But James Harrison, you are going to come in and be the reliever. You're 30-something years old. You're going to be the reliever. You're going to rush the passer on third downs. And James Harrison didn't take kindly to that. But guess what? It worked. It worked.
Mhm.
Now, James Harrison ultimately forced his way out of Pittsburgh, got released, and then signed with New England for that Super Bowl appearing run that they lost to the Eagles, whatever. But that's what should have been a conversation with Sam Hubbard and maybe a number of other guys. They finally saw that Von Bell was just a step too slow, even though he was the key figure to get that peanut punch out to force the fumble. But nonetheless, man, that's those conversations should have been had a long time ago. I just think they just blew up. The decision making just blew up right in their face. But it is what it is, man. We're here now. I'm personally not expecting playoff appearance this year. Even though I like the excitement, but I'm just watching this team from a glass eye view and thinking like, man, I just need us to make some really nice changes over the course of the offseason because it's needed with
Yeah,
this team.
definitely. All right. That's our overview. We're going to take a quick break here. We'll come back and talk about our offensive and defensive game balls and wrap up the roaring reactions here. Once we're gone, we're going to go right back into running through the jungle and give you guys the upcoming game against the Broncos. Again, it's a must win. We've been saying it, I don't know, for about 8 weeks now. So hold on tight with us. If you have not hit the like or subscribe button or shared us, please do so now. Comments are always welcome. And we'll be right back after messages from our sponsors. All right, welcome back to the Roaring Reactions. Once again, I'm your host, Brandon Harry, here with your host, Justin Lacey. We got into everything. We didn't do the coach's cliff notes. I will say this: it does seem more upbeat and positive, especially Joe Burrow. His demeanor seems a little bit better. All that said, it's still not in a great place. All that said, if you're watching the Hard Knocks, I think it's pretty obvious to me right now that I feel like we have the fourth best coach in the division. I just watching Hard Knocks.
Seriously.
I don't know. I don't know what your take is on that, Justin, but that's been mine. So my coach's cliff notes, I think, are a little bit more Hard Knocks right now than they are the actual, because you're getting more out of Hard Knocks than you are the actual press conference. So.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. I've been saying the same thing for weeks now at this point. Zach Taylor is the fourth best coach in the AFC North. Is very clear, and he's also probably like the 10th best coach in the AFC overall. That's not good enough. This team leads and breathes through Joe Burrow, and it's very clear. Ever since that loss to Pittsburgh at home, where they could put up 38 points, and Joe Burrow gave his press conference and say, like, we're going to be remembered for this and how we're going to handle adversity and stuff like that. Ever since he gave that speech, it seems like that the team has sort of turned the tide and responded. And it feels like that he's the guy that needs to be the one that sends the overall message. And it's not saying that the guys do not respect the coaches, like Zach Taylor and whatnot. I just feel like that this team knows that if we're going to win and win at a high level, Joe's the one that's going to lead us through the trenches. Yeah. And unfortunately, I do not believe that Zach Taylor is a guy that's going to match that energy of high-level winning. We see it several times this season already. The game against the Raiders, Joe Burrow was not happy, but yet Zach Taylor's still trying to hand him a game ball and stuff that Joe just threw right back in the back because he didn't care for it. Against the Titans, he's saying that stuff is effing embarrassing. We're 6-8. You know what I mean? We're playing sloppy football, 1,000 penalties and whatnot. I'm here to see stuff like that because it just shows that this team wants to win and he wants to win. His standards are so much higher, and yet we got a coach much more like the front office that's trying to relegate his temperature back to what we are, our standards, our organization standards, when his standards are set a little bit higher than that. And you had the outburst with Amarius Mims on the sideline with Frank Pollock. I said I was here to see. I said I was here for that too. I didn't care. I want these players to be able to show that they're competitive, that they want to get back in the game. That if there's nothing's working, then they need to let them know. I don't care if it turns into a disgruntled whatever kind of thing like that. Now, don't be bombastic and blow up everything. And it seemed like everything was fine. Tempers were flared. They were just trying to, hey, we don't need you to risk it further your injury, whatnot. But it's nice to see that somebody is getting to the face like, Lou, dude, what you're doing is not working. Because let's just keep it a buck here. Frank Pollock, he's been flying so far under the radar with criticism as well too. It's all been Zach. It's all been Lou. Those are the two players. Those are the coaches that's getting the most brunt of the blame, and not guys like Frank Pollock, who's been a horrible position line coach and have gotten so many pieces over the last few years. So with that being said, man, I'm with you. Zach Taylor's just not there for me. I see he's not a bad coach. He's not a horrible coach. He's a great motivational speaker. To an extent, he's a good X's and O's that can drop a few plays here and there. But what Cincinnati needs is a leader of men, like a Dan Campbell kind of guy. Somebody like, that's why I said I would love to have Bill Belichick in Cincinnati, because a coach like Bill Belichick and the others too in the NFL, John Harbaugh, all of you mentioned that as well. Guys like that can overcome losses and still be able to replenish, because we ain't just talking about identifying talented players. It's identifying talented coaches to replace those that move on to other positions. We were lucky to have Dan Pitcher waiting in the wings, but it's not always going to be that easy. It's not. Like, Dan Pitcher is probably going to get poached and go somewhere else anyways. But like I said, man, I do agree with you overall. It's just this team just lives and breathes through Burrow. Zach is just there. He's there just to be the coach and be somewhat of the face, but we know that the real face is Joe.
Tim Lyons, gone but not forgotten, is still here in the live chat, even though he has to work. He says he's not an AFC North coach. He's swaffed. Yeah, not wrong. I think that's what we're talking about a little bit is we've talked about more violence on defense. We've talked about better tackling. We've talked about leader of men. We've talked about being strong. I think that's kind of all what we're saying there. Yeah, I wouldn't go as far as saying Pete Carroll, Cincinnati, because what do you get him for? 2 years? He's in his 70s. I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's another reason why I wasn't a huge Belichick guy.
Belichick has a history of developing guys as a successor more than what Pete Carroll has in his tenure. But overall, Zach Taylor's record in the AFC North speaks for itself. It's garbage, and we just can't keep losing these AFC North games. It would have been a huge disappointing loss had the Browns would have came back and won that game. If Jameis Winston would have started that game, would you have felt good about the win? I think that game would have gone very differently if the Browns would not have just said, all right, let's wave the white flag on the rest of the season. If they still would have played Jameis Winston. Now, I know Jameis, he can give you some apple turnovers, but he's a pretty good passer too.
Afton here, our resident Steelers fan, says Tomlin is a good leader. He's still not getting postseason wins. The argument I would make here, Afton, especially on the offensive side of the ball, I don't think Tomlin's had the tools in the tool belt that Zach Taylor's had. For sure. When you look at what we have on offense versus the Steelers, I love George Pickens. I think he's a great young receiver, but he also needs, I think, some mentorship that he's not getting there, right? Yeah. I like our pieces better, and I think that's the reason why Joe Burrow has been the reason why that he drug a corpse of a team to a Super Bowl in 2021.
Right. Yeah. And that's the point. Everybody knows that Joe Burrow was the one that took that team to the Super Bowl and not Zach Taylor. And the Mike Tomlin conversation is, he may not be winning playoff games, but that's because his limitations are very much clear. They don't have really a long-term answer at quarterback. The defense can only take you so far. And quite frankly, you're seeing it unfold right now with that Steelers team that they've picked way too early, and now they're losing games. We knew that this was going to happen. This is the
look at their schedule.
It's the brutalest stretch.
They played all their early games early. All the easier games were early. All the harder games were late.
Right.
I said it on the homies. Actually, I had a corner time bet with Big G that they'd lose back-to-back games. And he bet me 15 minutes per game. So at some point in time, he's going to be sitting with his back to the camera for 30 minutes.
I'm worried about that Week 18 game, though, for us, because I think that the Bengals can pull off that victory there. But, man, that's going to be a tough one because they're going to be playing for a lot. What if we get Baltimore and Pittsburgh round 3 in the playoffs again? That would be nice.
Yeah, wild. All right, so we're coming to the end of the show here. Again, we're going to go right over into Running Through the Jungle shortly after this wraps up. but I wanted to get your take on offensive and defensive game balls for the Bengals against the Browns. Who you got? Who you giving game balls and why?
Absolutely. So let me start off with defense because there's plenty to go around, but obviously we're going to be able to focus on one. Initially, I wanted to give my defensive game ball to Mike Hilton, but actually, after really watching the game, I'm going to give it to Jordan Battle. I think that Jordan Battle was just stupendous. He really rebounded from his blunder, from the mishap with the whole dropping the ball before going into the end zone and scoring. It seemed like that he really rebounded well. He was in the backfield along with Mike Hilton doing those blitzes and those tackles for losses. If it wasn't for Geno Stone, who also had a good game as well, if it wasn't for Geno Stone doing this blitz on DTR in the red zone, he wouldn't have had that pick, but he still made the pick. He still made the play. We did just see another play to where the ball was tipped like 8 times by Bengals defenders, and it got incomplete. But I'm going to go with Jordan Battle. I think that he's a person that was like, okay, this is what we've been hoping for out of this draft pick.
Yep.
And it's finally finally starting to surface some. It seems like he's finally starting to get it. Again, competition matters. But right now, you can only play who's all out in front of you. He don't look lost.
I'm going to piggyback on this one with you because that's who I have getting the game ball too. He's made the electrical plays. He's flying around tackles and balls and whatever. The biggest difference, I think, between this game and maybe the last couple games versus earlier in the season, I didn't see him take bad angles.
Thank you.
We've seen that. And maybe that's one of those things where, as I mentioned earlier with the defensive line guys, is he catching up to the speed of the NFL game now? Is he realizing that he's not just athletically more gifted than everybody else on the field, and now he's taking more of a correct angle because he's a sure tackler. He's the most sure tackler in my mind in our defensive backfield.
Yeah, and quite frankly, you just need him to be fundamentally sound. And I think simplifying the defensive game plan for these guys, I think that it took a while for Lou to adjust to that, but you're starting to see some of these players finally starting to develop. And an honorable mention, I do want to mention Marco Wilson. Shout out to him too. He's been awesome since we picked him off of claims of what we've claimed him off waivers from New England too. But anyways, going to get offense.
Chris Jenkins had 2 sacks.
2 sacks,
McKinley Jackson had a sack. Hendrickson had a sack. Osai had another sack.
And somebody other than Trey Hendrickson did not get was not only sacking the quarterback. That was awesome. And Trey Hendrickson did get a sack too. So my offense game ball now, this was a little bit challenging. Now, again, I initially wanted to go Joe Burrow because it felt like that he was on a Peyton Manning high-level tear the way how he started the game. But then it cooled off in the second half. Now, albeit he did throw his third touchdown pass to Jamar Chase to seal the win. But I'm actually going to go with Chase Brown. Chase Brown is a guy that is just like stabilized the running game for me. He's been like this for a while now. But if it wasn't for him, if it was Zach Moss on the field still, or dare I say it, if it was Joe Mixon last year on the field, I don't know if the Bengals were probably going to win this game even more comfortably like I thought that they were. Chase Brown, he's showing that he can do a lot of things. He can protect out of the backfield. He can pass protect. He's a great receiver to catch outlet passes. I remember the outlet pass that Joe threw on a 3rd and short to the left side. He did a quick spun around and catch it and caught it in stride and still got the first down with the defender almost draped on him. That's that explosiveness that we've been missing out of that position for a few years now. We love Joe Mixon. We miss him. We hope that he's doing well in Houston, although he's kind of struggling a little bit right now on these last few games. But we need what fit our offense and what fit the needs of what the Bengals were trying to become is through what Chase Brown is giving us right now. The offense does not slow its tempo when he's on the field. And that's what's been very refreshing to see. I know that guys like T. Higgins, I know that guys like Jamar and Joe, they're going to be great. But I set a higher standard for those guys because those are the captains of the team. So that's the reason why I'm personally going to go with Chase Brown as my offensive game ball recipient, even though I can give it to any other guys.
Yeah, Joe Burrow, 252, 3 touchdowns, 0 picks. Probably looked like he was going to be a player of the game starting off. Some of the Houdini stuff he's doing in the pocket's crazy.
Man.
And he always keeps his eyes downfield. He's done a great job with that stuff. Stepping up in the pocket, feeling the pressure. He's next level with it. But again, fumble. You know what I mean? Like, why we gotta do that?
Yeah.
Jamar Chase, 6 catches, 97 yards, and a touchdown. But a good chunk of that and the touchdown was on a gimme play where the defensive back gave up on it. We did see T tweak an ankle, but also had a touchdown. Yoshi had a touchdown.
One over Denzel Ward too, and that was awesome.
Chase Brown, even though he didn't get a touchdown, probably because of what he did early in the game, also with the stretch, he runs the stretch run better than anybody we've had. We've seen Zach try to do that the last 3 or 4 years, and it was that square peg and a round hole.
Mm-hmm.
Chase Brown is the guy that can actually get it done. 18 carries, 91 yards, over 5 yards a carry, and 3 catches for 18 yards. I think I give Chase Brown the nod here too. I probably give it to Burrow if he doesn't have a fumble. Be honest with you.
That's kind of like
but
where
a
I'm at
turnover. I'm gonna, you know,
because it felt like that he was going to score in that possession anyways, even if it may have just been a field goal. It felt like that it was going to be a score, but it was one of those things where he kind of was doing a little too much and it ended up backfiring. He had 2 hands on the ball, but it's one of those things where it's like, look, man, you're going to live and die with the sword, you know, in those moments. He's making great plays out of structure, you know, those Houdini magic plays, but some of the bad that comes with it is stuff like that. We see it happen with Mahomes, Allen, Lamar. Those things happen quite often when you have an explosive playmaker like that. And it's no coincidence that those 4 guys, those 3 other guys I mentioned, along with Burrow, are the top 4 quarterbacks in the AFC, in the NFL, period. So, you know, you live and die with that. But even though Chase Brown's stat line did not like scream obvious offensive game ball recipient, I think that his degree of impact was felt more in this game than everybody else. If that makes sense.
Well said. All right, that does it for our reactions to this Cleveland Browns game. Thank you guys for rocking with us again. Apologies, it was a little bit late, a lot going on with the holidays and whatnot, but we are always going to be here to give you our opinions on these, and we're going to go right over, as I said before, right into running through the jungle. We'll be right back after I get that set up and sent out. It'll just take a minute or two, and we'll be back in there. But that's it for the Roaring Reactions. Thank you guys for rocking with us, and catch us over at Running Through the Jungle. We'll see you.